Hey guys, Scott Sillari here with Vyral Marketing, and we're back with another great Harrelson Hangout. Hanging out with Harrelson. Greg is here, and I'm super excited. We have one of Greg's newest agents, Joseph, on the call today, and we're going to go through, as we always do, a live coaching call where Greg is just training his staff, and you can see that and kind of get a little insight on what he's doing with his team to build his business and to make sure that all of his agents or employees are very efficient and just constantly, doing what they're supposed to be doing and crushing it. So I'm excited to be here, and thanks so much again for always doing these, Greg. They're the best.
Oh man, you're welcome, Scott. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So I guess Scott mentioned Joseph. You're fairly new to my company, but you're also new to the real estate business itself. So you started business. When did you get your license? Just so the people that are going to see this video, I want to kind of put this into perspective, because as we get into a coaching conversation, what I may share with you today could be different than I would share with somebody maybe that's been in the business 5 years, 10 years, and whatnot. So let's go ahead and set the groundwork. How long have you been in the business?
So I got my license in January, and then I went full-time in May 2015.
Okay, so you're still brand new. I mean, you haven't even been licensed for 1 full year, and I know this, but just to again put this into perspective for everyone else, well, first of all, how old are you? I can't recall how old you are, even though you've told me many times, I'm sure.
25.
25 years old. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're starting about the same time I started, maybe 24, 25. And like you, I believe, or I know real estate was my first real job. So what were you doing, 2 years ago? What was your job then?
I was basically a banana boat captain. So I brought people from the beach to the parasail boat, and I did that all through college, and it was a good summer gig, but I wasn't really making any money.
Yeah.
So I had to make the transition.
Yeah. I got it, man. I tell you, growing up in Myrtle Beach is a fun town, and
Yeah.
it sounds like you are reaping the benefits of that. So, okay, so we'll call it banana boat captain. Let me ask you this question, just to start off in Greg Harrelson style. Why the hell do you think you can sell real estate coming from just like taking people out to go jump on a banana boat on your jet ski? I mean, like, this doesn't even make sense. Why'd you get into real estate?
I was, to be honest with you, I was actually in college to go to the military. I was studying intelligence and national security. I wanted to graduate from that, to go to the military, then go to the FBI. And then I talked to a lot of these other different types of people in the military and the CIA and the FBI, and they say a smart man learns from his own mistakes, even smarter man learns from the mistakes of others. Mm-hmm. So after listening what they had to say, it didn't seem like it would make sense for me to do that, so I decided against it. And then I was actually having coffee with my best friend and his mom, and we're looking out of these her big, beautiful bay windows, overlooking her pool, the ocean in the background, and she told me, she's like, you know what, Joe, I think you'd be really good in real estate. I signed up for class the next day, and here I am.
Great. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I know. I guess I knew you were thinking about maybe military, but that's it's a little bit more information than I had before. So I would say, would you say you're fairly disciplined, maybe detail oriented?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I would imagine that you would have to have those type of traits in order to even have confidence in going into the field that you were thinking about going into. So here you are now. You're nearly 1 year into the business. You've been with us since October, right? So you've been here for about 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And up until you got to our company, what had you done? How many deals had you did in your first year up until the last 2 months?
Closed four houses.
Okay. So you closed 4, okay. Mm-hmm. And how many listings did you have in October, like active listings?
I was actually allowed to bring over, I think it was 6 from my previous company over to this one.
Okay, good. And have you closed any deals with us yet? Where are you at in closings right now for the year?
So I have zero closings with you guys, but I have 5 that are pending right now.
Okay, good. So in the first 60 days of being with us, you put 5 into contract. So you put more under contract in the last 60 days than you did than you closed all year. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Would you say moving forward, okay, this is not intended to be a promotion, so I'm not asking you to promote my company at any way, because there's really a reason I'm going to ask you this question. But what would you say that you've learned about the real estate business in the last 60 days by being here that you may not have learned in your previous months of being licensed? And let me preface this. Everyone could be in the same exact environment but declare they learned something else. So for those that are listening to me on this call and wondering why the heck does that matter, it's very important to me, because this will share with me, Joseph, what your listening is of our coaching. And it doesn't mean you may not listen to everything and absorb a lot of things, but your answer here will kind of give me an idea of what you're open to, because there might be other things that we have said that you're not going to mention, and I could declare that you're probably a little bit more resistance to those things, which we all are going to be open to some coaching and we're going to resist some. So what have you learned? What have you gotten out of the last 2 months that you feel like you didn't know about the real estate industry?
Well, number one, it's going to be based off a skill set, and number two, it's a lot more work than I anticipated.
Okay.
Getting the plane off the ground, it's a lot more gas you got to put in. So.
Got it. So to generate momentum and really to be, and a lot of, I guess we should say, what is your goal for the next year?
My goal is to do 35 transactions.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So I mean, and the truth is that the real estate industry, Joseph, as you're figuring out, and doesn't mean that you're not willing, because you seem to be very disciplined, and I do watch you around the office. It is a real job. Though you may be a subcontractor and, you can come and go as you want, but if you really want to do 35 transactions or even build, I know that that's just a first step for you. You would eventually want to probably build a bigger production. And in order to do that, you really got to work as if it's a job. It's definitely not a hobby, and it is skill based. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is they get into this business and they just want to do some deals. They want to show some properties or list some properties, and they think they can do it with just their relationships. And relationships do matter, but in the end, skills matter more. We don't have to have a relationship with our heart surgeon to choose a heart surgeon. We'll choose the heart surgeon based on them having the best skills. If we have a friend who's a heart surgeon but they don't have great skills, or we feel like somebody has better skills, we're going to default to better skills over relationship. And remember, we're dealing with their financials here. This is a big transaction. So for somebody like you, were you born in Myrtle Beach?
No. Sorry if my throat's a little cloggy. I've been sick for the past few days.
No problem.
But I was born in Mississippi, and I came to Myrtle Beach when I was 1.
Okay, so you've had 24 years in. So in our town, you're definitely a local. I mean, you're because there's not a lot of people born here, but that you're definitely a local. So you have a big centers of influence. What's interesting, and just to this should be an eye-opening for you right here. This comment, and I want you to really. We're going to kind of dive into this a little bit more. You already have a lot of relationships that are doing real estate. I bet you, being here for 24 years, I bet you there are 30 transactions that will go down in the next 12 months from people that you already know. So the upside is, wow, if you have a lot of skills, you can really do well with your relationships. But if you don't have a lot of skills, your relationships are probably not going to trust a 25-year-old to handle their $500,000 piece of property. Now, I'll pick on you for a moment, not to pick on you, but to make a point that centers of influence for you, being somebody that's been in this market so long, is critical.
Mm-hmm.
But the challenge is a lot of your centers of influence that own real estate is probably going to be relationships of your mom or an aunt or an uncle. Your centers of influence that can do transactions are probably the next generation up that really know you. They really know you, but they're also, they're already working, they already have businesses or whatever they're doing. Why do you think I'm saying that it'll be the next generation? I mean, So let me ask you, you understand that your centers of influence that's going to be able to produce transactions will be your next generation above you. You understand that?
Yeah, to an extent.
Okay, so what I mean is, like, maybe your 25-year-old buddy that you were on the banana boat with, the jet skis with, he might still be on the jet skis, not buying real estate right this second.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
so you have your friends, your core friends, that may not be doing transactions yet, but you have all of the family that have been coming to the Christmas parties for years that are doing transactions because they're already a little bit more established. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, why do you think that they're not going to come to you to do deals?
Well, probably number one, I haven't reached out to them.
Okay.
And I think that they maybe even see me as, Joey growing up, just like a young kid growing up. But the thing about that is I want to fully immerse myself into real estate. So I am known as the advisor in the family and not just, someone that they should go to because he has his license.
Mm-hmm.
So, Greg, I got an important question for you. I want to jump in, which is related to this. How does little Joey get over that perception that he has currently from that center of influence that he's in to start being able to handle maybe some of those transactions of his friends' parents or his friends' aunts or whatever?
Yes, great question. Is exactly where we're going. So, and that's why I wanted to go through this with you, Joseph, is we have to first identify a huge opportunity, and the huge opportunity is your centers of influence. Then we have to kind of like be real with ourselves and say, why, if there was going to be a reason why a lot of them would not do transactions with me today, if there was a reason, then why would it be? And it would be because their perception of you, Joseph, is probably still in the little Joey mode. It's he sat at the kids table, just only 15 years ago. So let's get into, though, now how do we capitalize on it? Okay, because this is the perfect example of somebody who has relationships. Now, I know, Joseph, you even have skills, but a lot of people don't know that yet, okay? And I also know your skills can still be developed further, but you do have very good skills for somebody that's been in the business for less than a year.
Thank you.
But now what we got to do, though, is we got to make sure that the community, that your community, your centers of influence knows you have skills. And the skills that they're looking for are different than the skills that a real estate agent needs to actually convert a listing appointment to a list and taken, or a buyer appointment to a contract. Those are sales skills. That's not the sales skills that you need to demonstrate to your centers of influence in order to get deals. What you have to demonstrate is that you have depth of knowledge. Okay, that's a different skill. Okay, you have to be able to demonstrate day in and day out that you have depth of knowledge, because a lot of times you'll see people are looking to hire people with experience. So if somebody knows, well, Joseph's only been in the business a year, how could he have any experience? Right? It's just a natural question.
Yeah.
Only been in the business for 6 months. He doesn't have a lot of experience. It doesn't matter how smart you are. That would just be a generalization that could be made by a centers of influence that's made up of the next generation up. Different than if your centers of influence is your peers, your friends that are the same age. They don't care. Because if they say that you're not that smart, they're admitting that they're not that smart either. You're the same group. You guys will think you're brilliant together, but the next generation up will think that you're lacking a little bit of experience. Okay, so that's where we've got to look at this and say, okay, so now that we know that that's the game, how do we demonstrate our depth of knowledge? So here's what you would do. And we may need to work on this together, say once a month, Joseph. But what I think is you need to take your centers of influence, and you need to go ahead and create one. I'm going to call it an article. Let's start with a newsletter. We're going to create one newsletter a month that's going to go out to your entire centers of influence. But it's going to be more in a article we're going to deliver more of an article-like message. In other words, you're going to do a market report, and you're going to take the numbers of the market, and we can look at, I can give you some numbers, we may think of more. You could take the total sales for the market in the MLS, the total number of active listings, the days on the market, the number of pendings, the average price point that properties have closed for, and then you can compare that number to either the month before or the year before the same month. So in other words, we're going to just do two charts. You'll do one chart with today's numbers, and then we'll compare it to another chart, and then you'll be able to demonstrate whether the charts are going, whether the trends are going up and down. Okay, so now once you see that information, then you're going to write a newsletter around that information. What's interesting is you may not be the market data, but if you're the interpreter of the market data, then you have depth of knowledge. So I'm going to repeat that again. You may not be the data, but the person who interprets the data is viewed as knowledgeable. That, my friend, is something they're not expecting from you. They're not expecting to receive this from you. In the first month they receive it, they're going to be, oh, that was interesting. And then they're not expecting to see it again. And then they see it again, and like, oh, okay, wow, cool. And then they're not expecting it again. And then the third month, and the fourth month, and the fifth month, and the sixth month, they start saying, hey, are you getting those same reports from Joseph? Yeah, aren't they good? And then the seventh month, all of a sudden somebody emails you back and say, hey, this is really good. And on the eighth month, they say, hey, I have a friend that's thinking about. And then on the ninth month, by the way, I'm thinking about. And then on the 10th month, you start receiving calls. On the 11th month, you start receiving orders. Okay, so this is where people make a mistake is that you start working your centers of influence. And first of all, people don't realize that when you start working your centers of influence, they think that the fact that they have a relationship is going to be why they're going to get referrals. And I promise you, it's not your relationship that's going to get you referrals. It's your relationship that'll get you they'll open up your email. It's your relationship that will allow them to open up if you mail them a thank you card of some sort. But I can assure you, your relationship will not get you the deals. It's the depth of your knowledge, and the way that you demonstrate depth of knowledge is to actually share knowledge with them, and you've got to do it on a very consistent basis. So like with Scott, you guys are like, what we do with you all is just a perfect example, right? 2 videos a month out to your database. So that's exactly what we're talking about, and over time, you can actually take somebody who's a stranger and convert them into an acquaintance and then convert them into an advocate. You can take a complete stranger, and if you'll consistently add value, in other words, give them good quality information, educate them about the real estate market. If you'll do that consistently, you can take a stranger, couple months, they become what I'd call an acquaintance. In 6 to 9 months, they become an advocate, and they're not even doing deals with you, but they're telling your friends all about you. And I think a lot of people think of doing what I just described with a large database, but they never think of doing it with their centers of influence. And I think that it's because people take their centers of influence for granted. So here's how many people, Joseph, would you say is in your centers of influence database? Or do you have it in centers? Do you have your centers of influence on a list yet?
Yeah, I think I have probably 400.
Okay, no, fantastic.
Yeah, probably around that area.
I got a question real quick.
Yes.
Just how many friends do you have on Facebook?
Oh, I don't know, 400 or 500.
400 or 500. What about like all your other social sites?
Oh, that's it. I really just work with Facebook. Everything else is kind of personal. You know, if I do Twitter, I'm just kind of looking at other people's tweets. It's just so I can, you know, kind of learn from them.
Got it. All right.
Yeah. So okay. So you got 400 centers of influence. Okay. How many of those should you actually send a handwritten Christmas card to this year?
Probably every single one of them.
Okay, well, you're probably not though. So if you
Gotta hire
had,
someone.
well, no, you can't do that either because it's got to be in your personal handwriting. So how many do you think you could send? Personal, written, stuffed in an envelope, and a stamp slapped on it, and it's not a picture of you and your dog. It's got to actually have a written note. And anybody who's listening to that, I can tell you right now, a lot of people probably says, "Oh, I'm doing Christmas cards." If it's send out cards, no. People are now starting to get offended by these systems that are actually writing the card for you. I'm telling you that's happening. If it's the picture of you and your dog, the consumer's starting to realize that that's just an easy way for you to not have to write something on the card. I'm telling you, I think people that are sending that out should be better off to send nothing than to actually send something handwritten. And I've heard that numerous times from other people. It was the right way to do it, in my opinion. But then when everyone started doing it, then the consumer becomes noisy, and they start to tune it out. We are now tuned out, and they are tuning in to who is the one person that's going to write a card. So how many Christmas cards will you actually handwrite and send this Christmas? We're really late in the game to get started on this, so please don't tell me 400 because I'm just looking for a number that you'll commit to. I'm really not looking for a number, only a number you'll commit to.
I'll probably do 10 a day up until Christmas Eve.
Okay, good. Well, Christmas Eve it'll show up after Christmas, so you may want to just do 10 a day up until say next Tuesday. Okay. So that'll be, so let's just say 50, 60. Okay. Now, what I'd want you to do is now you're going to probably take your closer centers of influence and send the cards to them. Okay, we're not talking about selling anything. We're not trying to sell. It's a sincere, happy holiday card. Okay, but we're just trying to get them seeing your name again. Then what I want you to do is I want you to now, and we can work on this together, we need to make sure that your 400 centers of influence are in Infusionsoft. We want to make sure that you've kind of planned this out and you know what data you're going to either create a video, send them a newsletter. We need to know what the data points are going to be, and then you want to be consistent about reporting on those data points every time. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to want to find out something else that's just going on in the market, And again, I'll work with you on this until you get this down, but you're going to create a monthly newsletter that's going to give them a real estate report, and you're going to be sending that to them every single month. And then you're going to monitor the people who are opening it, and then you're going to use the opens or the click-through rates to determine which ones you're going to call, and then you're going to call them and just say, hey, did you happen to get the newsletter that I've been sending out about the market update? Just wanted to see if you had any questions. And that's it.
I'll probably end up doing a video because I hear videos. Yes. They're a lot more personal. You get to see the person talking, and it's a lot better. It seems like that would be a higher conversion.
Yes, so I think that's the way to go. So it's for those that are willing to get in front of a camera. We've got the camera set up here at the office. You just want to put that in your schedule. So what you're going to do is you're going to do the same research, and then you're just going to use that research as kind of your outline for the video and send that video once a month. And then the key is to then go back through the system, see who's opening and watching the videos. So that'll be called the click-through rate, right? We'll know who actually watched the video. Then I want you to call every single one of them that watches your video. Mm-hmm. Now, over time, you're going to see, let's just say, I'm going to make these number ups, that 30 people watched your video month 1. Month 2, 30 people watched your video. Month 3, we may change a subject line. We may change something like that to see if we can get 60 people to watch your video. So once you start to see the consistency in your numbers, then you start changing the video titles, the subject matter and whatnot, and then we can see if some subjects and some titles get more people to actually watch the videos. Eventually in a perfect world, and it will not be this way, we would love that all 400 people watched your video every single month. That's not an expectation that we need to set because it's probably not realistic. Mm-hmm. But at the same token, we will, after a couple months, we'll figure out what your baseline is, and then we'll try to manipulate the videos and the titles to see if we can grow it from there.
Okay.
Okay, so before we end the call, because that was one of my big things for you, is really helping you understand and make the connection that your centers of influence is going to be huge for somebody that grew up in a particular real estate market. But you have to understand at your age, your centers of influence that can do deals is your next generation up. The next generation still thinks you're little Joey. So how do we handle that condition? Is that we go over the top. That's all right. It's okay. You're getting kind of red there, man.
Well, you know, that's one of the things I've always, just because real estate, I fully wanted to submerge myself in it just so I can be like the advisor. And
Yes.
now this is just another stepping stone to become the advisor.
Yeah, you're gonna crush this. You know, you're gonna absolutely crush this. I've been around you enough to know that you can pull this off with your next generation centers of influence, because you appear to be very well put together, very responsible type of guy. So it's just now delivering the message consistently where they're going to match up, because I'm sure they already look at you as being a fairly responsible young man. Okay, so you've already kind of got that listening. Now you're just going to match up and prove them right. You're not proving them wrong. You're actually going to prove them right that, you know what, I knew he was going to be successful. Look at the type of information that he's putting out to us. Okay, so the other thing, of course, though, is that's just going to get you, you know, a certain level of production in 2016. Do you ultimately prefer to work listings or buyers?
Listings.
Okay, so you want to predominantly be somebody who represents more sellers and marketing their property aggressively and properly positioning them to get them sold. So what are you doing right now to put yourself in position to gain listings?
Just making my calls, doing what I can to focus on the listings and focus on the market data and developing my skills so that I can have a lot of listings and, you know, be able to get them the most amount of money for their property compared to anyone else. That's what I'm trying to find out. How do I do that? So.
Okay, got it. Good. And so, how many contacts are you really making a day?
20.
Okay. And tell me and tell the people that are listening, why did I kind of ask it that way? Because you thought you were making how many?
I thought I was making 30 to 35 a day.
Yeah. So what's interesting, you know, it's a lot of times, you know, you could come in here and you could make 35 contacts a day for 5 straight days, 10 straight days, and then have one of those days that you make 2 contacts, may have a couple days where you don't show up, you don't make any contacts, and then when you blend your average, the average is a significantly lower number than what it feels like. So I just kind of want to make you aware of that it's very important that when your goal is to make 30 to 35 contacts per day, that you actually have to check it off the list. You have to make them, and you will never make them up. I mean, it's very rarely does somebody make 30 contacts a day and then they miss like 2 or 3 days. Do they go back in and now make 40 or 50 the next day? So you know, but at the same token, because you're only missing a few days here and there, and the days that you do show up, maybe you are making the 30 to 35, it feels like to you that you might be doing it, but it looks totally different in the analytics. So obviously we track your numbers, and our CFO reviews the numbers, talks with you about the numbers, and knows that it's 20. So, you know, early on in your career, you have to do this, and this is not for everybody, but anybody that's going to see this video and they're only 1 year in the business and they really want to jumpstart their business and do big deals, you want to go over the top on the amount of conversations you have on a daily basis. You know, I've got great friends, and I've said this on previous Hangouts, where we used to do 60, 70, and 80 contacts a day, and that we would do that many days in a row. This was not like we just did it on all-day prospecting day. This was more routine for us. But you know, here's what our thoughts were, and we were listening to our coach, and that Mike Ferry still is my coach, and was a lot of their coaches that I'm referring to. And basically, what we were doing is we were saying on the front end of our career, we're going to be unreasonable in the amount of people that we talk to on the first few years of our business. So when we're in the 5th and 6th and 7th year of our careers, we don't have to do that anymore. We're going to be unreasonable in the effort we put out on the front end, so we could attract unreasonable returns on the back end. Because if you look at a lot of the top agents and you look at the effort that they're putting into their business today, they're getting paid way more money than the effort that they're putting in. And then if you look at some of the new agents, they're putting in way more effort than they're getting paid for. If you'll put the effort in on the front end and make a lot of contacts, then and you're unreasonable about it, you'll get unreasonable income without so much effort later on. Now, you have a 3-year goal. What is your 3-year goal?
My 3-year goal is to probably do 35 this year. Then I'm going for 60 and then 70. The reason why it's going to taper off is because in that 3rd year, I'm looking to eventually go to Florida and sell real estate over there. So I knew you were the guy to go to when it came to skill set. Even before I joined the first company I worked with, I was trying to get on the Harrelson team. It didn't happen. I'm not really sure what happened with it, but I finally made my way over here. So my goal is to just develop my skill set, go to Florida, and be a top producing agent over in Florida somewhere.
Got it. So we were talking about this a couple weeks back, and I was what's interesting is basically I'm coaching you to leave my company and go to Florida in 3 months or 3 years, which is fantastic. I'm excited about it because I like to, to me, it's like if you get to go to Florida, then we actually both won together. Like that's a cool goal that we both have. And so, what that tells me is we have limited time together. And 3 years is a long time, but it's going to be very little time in the span of your overall career. Okay, so my advice to you, knowing that we really are working on exiting you out of South Carolina, getting you to Florida, but making sure when you go to Florida, you can kick butt the minute that you land in Florida, you're going to have to, I promise you, have to put in high volume of contacts for the 3 years that you're here. But if you will do that with us and we can guide you in the conversations and get your skills right, then you can go to Florida and do amazing numbers within 1 or 2 months, and you're already starting to collect listings very quickly in Florida. It doesn't matter to me where you are in the country, but what's going to really dictate that success are the habits that you form right now. And the number one habit is show up every day, make a lot of contacts, be very, very, very focused and disciplined on your follow-up, and then work on your sales skills. But between the 2 takeaways from today, that if there were only 2, was remember your centers of influence. We're not going to rely on relationship. We're going to rely on depth of knowledge. That's how we're going to get the deals. And when you combine relationship with depth of knowledge, the floodgates open up, and you're going to do a lot of deals with those centers of influence. On the flip side, when you go to Florida, guess what? A lot of those centers of influence deals, you could lose those in South Carolina because they don't live in Florida. That's okay, because between now and 3 years from now, you'll have your discipline of prospecting, your discipline for follow-up, and your skill sets will be so good you can drop off in anywhere in Florida, California, Texas, or anywhere in between and do fine with or without a centers of influence, and then you'll build one very quickly while you're there. So the main thing is we got to capitalize on centers of influence this year, and that's got to start immediately. And then, of course, you've got to continue to increase your contacts. 20 is acceptable, but it's not acceptable for your goals. So 20 could be acceptable for somebody, but with your goals of 35 and then 60 and then 70 and then leaving and going to Florida, 20 is not acceptable. You need to be shooting at 30 as a minimum, trying to hit 40 if when possible. Any questions or thoughts on any of that information?
I think I have enough notes that I just need to aim and shoot now.
Yeah, there you go. Or just shoot. And just you don't have to aim. Do it like us. Scott, any thoughts? Any thoughts on this? Anything you want to add, or any comments or questions?
No, I was just gonna say, I love the plan for you, Joseph, and I think you know what you want, which is really good, which a lot of people don't.
Yes.
So that's a big step right there, especially at your age. And then, as you grow, those people that get older with you, you're nurturing them. I mean, everything's a nurture, right, for when they're ready. And just adding value, doing a video, that process, feel free to reach out to me when you start doing that, man, and I'll give you some pointers. make sure you're doing it right.
All right, cool.
Well, good. So, for those that are either watching right now or gonna watch this on on a replay, this is just the conversations I have with my agents on a daily basis. And Joseph, thank you for being a little bit vulnerable. You asked me if I was going to prep you for the conversation, and I said no. And and that was the point. I don't prep you for any meetings that we have in our own office. If you and I are going to have a coaching conversation, I don't send you an email and tell you these are the questions that I'm going to ask. And I want the Hangout with Harrelsons to be real, to be raw, and to be just the same way as if we were doing it in my office. So I appreciate you playing the game, and I'm here to support you. Other than that, for all those that are watching, thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back to you with another Hangout with Harrelson next month. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.